My name is Rebecca and I'm from Florida. At the age of 20, I became very late on my period and I had 2 home pregnancy tests and they showed negative. But I was still so late, and I saw this clinic and it had a sign that said free pregnancy test. So I said, sure, it's a doctor's office, I'll go in there. And when I went in, the pregnancy test did show positive. And the lady at the desk, she asked me, well, how far along are you? And I said, I have no idea, it's been so long. And she said, the doctor will be back later today, would you like me to schedule you an exam? And I said, sure. So when I went back that afternoon, I was laying on the table and the doctor had come in and he told me, well, Miss Streetman, you're about 16 weeks along. And I laid there and I just began to cry. And then he was on this little wheelie thing and he wheeled around me and he said, well, we normally don't do the procedure that far along, but in your case we'll make an exception. And I remember looking at him and I got up on my elbows and I said, what did you say? And he said, well, you're 16 weeks along, we'll make an exception. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you're crying, obviously you're very upset. And I said, I'm crying and I'm upset because my husband died 4 weeks ago and he's not here to share this wonderful moment with me. I was in a Planned Parenthood abortion facility and I didn't even know it. But he planted the seed. The seed was planted there. I had my son, my precious son, and after he was born, I got drunk. He was about 4 months old and I got drunk and I had sexual relations and I became pregnant. And I didn't want anyone to know. I was so ashamed. I felt like I had committed adultery. So I went back to that abortion facility and that's when I had my first abortion. It was horrific. It was terrible. I started drinking more, the drugs. And then about 6 years later, I did find myself pregnant again, and I had my second abortion. The father of that child didn't want me to have, he begged me not to have the abortion, but I was very pro-choice, very hard at that time. There at that abortion facility in Tampa, they said, well, you've gotten pregnant so many times on the pill, we'll give you a Depo-Provera shot, and they guaranteed me that I could not get pregnant on the shot, so I agreed. But unfortunately, I had a very bad reaction to it. And I decided to go back on birth control pills. So I was waiting to go back. And I kept waiting and waiting. And then come to find out, I was actually pregnant again within 5 months. And I remember being very angry because once again they lied to me. They were deceptive at the abortion clinic. And I told my fiance at the time, I said, I can't do this again. It's been so soon. I knew it was a baby. They told me it was a blob of tissue for the first and second one, but I knew it was a baby. And I said, I can't do this. I want to place my baby for adoption. And he said, no, I won't sign the papers. My parents would never allow one of their grandchildren to be given away. So I felt very defeated and I went back and I had my third abortion. When I walked into the door that day, I was crying. Even when I walked in the door, I didn't want to be there. All they wanted was my money. And I went in and I laid down on that table and I was crying. And I remember the nurse came over to me. I was staring up at the ceiling and she says, oh, it'll be okay. It'll be over soon. And I just remember this welling up in anger because I knew what I was doing was not okay and I knew it would not be over soon and I wouldn't even look at her. The abortionist came in and the procedure started and I wouldn't even look at him. But I laid there crying, and after a while, the nurse, she walked down to the table where the vacuum machine was and where the procedure had started. And I remember it just began to hurt really, really bad, and I was crying because of the pain. And for some reason, about that time, she walked down the end of the table. And I did happen to look over at her, and she looked down. And then she looked up at me, and she smiled, and she said, oh, look, twins. And I just remember screaming, oh my God, what have I done? And I screamed, stop, stop, please stop. And then the abortionist started screaming at me to lay down because I was trying to get up off of the table. And he said he couldn't stop because of the tissue being left inside of me and they had to come and hold me down and finish the procedure. The abortionist came in afterwards and he said he would speak to the nurse about her behavior because the nurses aren't supposed to tell the women about their children. And I remember walking out of there that day like a zombie, and I just wanted to die. And I did try to commit suicide twice within the next 3 months. But this is why I share my testimony, because I want women to know the truth, how abortion hurts women. I want the legislators to know about ultrasounds. I was not ultrasound. That's why I will not be silent no more, and I will work to collect the written testimony, the evidence to show the courts that Roe v. Wade needs to be overturned. Thank you.